Erev Tov, everyone. It is Wednesday night. It is 8 p.m. here on the east side of the United States, here in the diaspora. This is the House of Seven Beggars, therefore it must be the Torah study with Rabbi and Reb Reuven. And of course, Reb Reuven is not with us, and his health has been keeping him from being able to join us for a while now. But I really hate to take his name off of the show. We've been doing these studies for many, many years, and we really miss him. So I think we're going to just keep the name on and hope that he will be able to join us at some point. Okay, so the last time we were getting together, I had actually said that we were going to kind of catch up in the little Midrash says and the Book of Legends, and we kind of got caught up in the Torah study, and excuse me, we got caught up in the Torah study. And we didn't get to it. So this week we'll start out and get caught up here, and then we'll go into the Torah study. So at least I think I seem to remember. Okay, yeah, it must be because I have my plates here. Okay, so first we're going to cover the Little Midrash Says, which I actually love this book. I mean, it's actually intended for children, but yeah, it's wonderful. It really gives you an opportunity to kind of get the quick version of it, the Reader's Digest version of it, hitting on the high points and stuff like that. And so I kind of like this for just kind of catching us up in there. Of course, before we start, Barak Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Wow. It was a struggle to get that one right. Okay, so we left off where the brothers are actually traveling back again to Mitzrayim, and they've taken Benjamin with them. And so now we're going to pick it up, and we're going to kind of carry forward here. So the brothers are invited to Yosef's palace. On their return, they came back, and they brought the money that had been put back in their sacks, and then they brought extra money with them to buy more. So I remember Shimon is actually there already because he's being held captive. Let's just back up here and check out the chat room. We have Shlomo, Shoshi, Miriam, Donald, Marshall, Kelsey, Lynn, Crystal, and a few people watching in the background, which is okay. If they don't want to come into the chat room, that's fine, as long as they're here. Okay, so now that we've got all that caught up, when the brothers arrived back in the capital of Mitzrayim, at the ruler's palace with Benjamin, meaning Yosef's palace, they saw the ruler had bowed to him. Yosef's first dream had been fulfilled. All his brothers had bowed to him. He told his attendants to tell them Zofnat B'niach, as Yosef was called. was inviting them all for a meal. Now, this scared the brothers. Would the ruler of Egypt find a new excuse to punish them? When the brothers were shown into Joseph's dining room, Joseph spoke friendly words to them. "Is your old father, whom you mentioned, still alive?" he asked them. "He is," replied the brothers. They bowed and fell on their faces. When Joseph noticed Benjamin, he asked, "Is this your little brother?" Joseph greeted Benjamin and asked him, "Do you have another brother from your mother?" "I do," answered Benjamin, "but he's lost. We don't know where he is." Joseph also asked him, "Do you have any sons?" "Yes, I have 10, replied Benjamin. And this kind of goes to the whole thing that, Benjamin is portrayed as this almost a child, and we need to straighten this out. Benjamin was not a child. He was a adult man, had children and all that. So yes, I have 10, replied Benjamin. So he was not a young man, Well, I mean, young comparatively. Young compared to most of the people in the chat. And myself. I'm going to include myself in that one. Okay, so I have given them names to remind me of my lost brother's suffering. For example, the oldest one is called Bela. This means swallowed, because my brother was swallowed by strangers and disappeared. Then he went on to explain his other sons' names. When Joseph heard how all of Benjamin's sons were named in a way that reminded him of Joseph, he realized how sad his younger brother was about his disappearance. He blessed him. "May God show favor to you, my son." Then he quickly left the room because he felt he had to cry and did not want the brothers to notice it. When he returned, he commanded, "Serve the meal." Before beginning to eat, Joseph showed the brothers his cup. "I can do magic tricks with this cup," he announced to the brothers. "With its help, I can seat you in the proper order at my table." Joseph tapped his cup and called out, "Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Issachar, Zebulun. You are all sons of one mother. Sit together. Dan, Naphtali, sit together because you have the same mother. Gad and Asher belong together. Benjamin's mother is no longer alive, and neither is mine. He will sit with me." Joseph's brothers were amazed by Zophnat, Paniach, magic. What'd you say, Joseph? This was exactly what Joseph wanted. He did not want the brothers to suspect who he was. He acted like an Egyptian magician. Okay, because if we go back to the narrative, you would think that with what Joseph is asking and the way that he is, kind of treating his brothers, putting them in the right order and everything, they would have had to have thought something is going on here. So when we come to the Midrash, we get a little more of the story. And we'd say, okay, now it starts to make sense. Okay, doing a magic trick, using his which he wasn't actually using divination. He didn't believe in it, but he's kind of misleading them, telling them that I can divine with this cup, and kind of putting them, off on the wrong track. Okay, so we continue. Joseph's cup is found in Benjamin's sack. Before the brothers left, Joseph commanded his son Manasseh fill their sacks with food. When no one heard When no one heard it, he added, "Also hide my cup in Benjamin's sack." A little while later, Yosef ordered his son Manasseh chase after the brothers, accuse them of stealing my cup. Manasseh rode after the brothers and overtook them. He accused them, "The ruler's magic cup is missing. One of you has stolen it." The brothers replied, "We don't steal. Don't you know that we even gave back the money which we found in our sacks after we returned home the first time?" Manasseh answered, "Nevertheless, I have orders to search all your belongings." The brother, and this is this whole thing, Manasseh. Okay, now he said in the Talmud it says that while he was the head of the household, he was the one in charge of the household, was Manasseh, and then he had an interpreter between him and his brothers, which was Ephraim. Ephraim was the interpreter, and Manasseh was the one who actually was in charge of Yosef's household. Anyway, nevertheless, I have orders to search all your belongings. The brothers unloaded all their sacks and opened them. Manasseh searched, and what did he pull out of Benjamin's sack? Yosef's magic cup. The brothers were shocked. How did the ruler's cup find its way into Benjamin's sack? Benjamin assured them, "I did not take the cup. This is another mean plot of the Egyptian ruler to punish us." Manasseh told the brothers that they must return with him to the ruler, who would judge them for their crime. The brothers had no choice but to obey. They all returned to Mitzrayim with Manasseh. When they again stood before Yosef, he rebuked them. "What have you done? I will keep the thief as my slave. The rest of you may go home." Yehudah told the ruler, "What can we say? We know we are innocent. Hashem is now punishing us for the sin that we committed long ago." Yehudah meant the sin of having sold Yosef. "Let's all stay here and serve you as slaves," Yehudah suggested to the ruler. "Oh no," Yosef insisted. "I am keeping only the thief. The others may return home in peace." Why did Yosef play the trick on the brothers? Yosef was testing them. Would they agree to leave Benjamin behind as a slave without helping him, just as they had acted towards Yosef? Then he would know that they had bad character and were no good. Then he would not tell them that he was Yosef. Or would they stand up and defend Benjamin? Okay. This brings us up to the commentary on Beggars, which is, we're almost to the end of Beggars, so we'll go ahead and continue on as far as we've studied. So Yehudah offers to become a slave instead of Benjamin. When Yehudah heard that the Egyptian ruler called out, "Benjamin will become my slave," he became filled with fright. "I promised my father." Remember, he made that very, very serious promise to his father. "If I don't bring him and stand him before you, I will have sinned to you for all time." Meaning, not only will I have sinned to you in this world, but I will be considered as having sinned against you in the next world also. Like I said, very, very serious pledge. "I promised my father to return Benjamin to him." He thought, "I must keep my promise." Yehudah stepped forward boldly to Yosef's throne. "Listen to me, my master," he shouted angrily. "If you dare to keep my brother here, I will pull out my sword. Do you know what will happen then? There will be a lot of dead people in Egypt, including you and Pharaoh." Yosef saw that Yehudah was very excited. He might attack him and the other inhabitants of the capital of Mitzrayim, so Yosef quickly waved to his son Manasseh. Show this man that you are just as strong as he is, Yosef commanded his son. Now, again, I'm going to make this point, and I've been hammering on this point for years, and you're probably all sick of hearing it from me. Frederick, good to see you here. You're probably all sick of hearing it from me that we have got to stop teaching our people, and especially our children, that these were weaklings. That the children of Israel were, they were put down by so many people and stuff like that. No. These people were warriors. They were strong. Now remember, Shimon and Levi went into Shechem and killed all the men in one day by themselves, just the two of them. Okay, so these are not shrinking violets. Okay, we have got to break the habit of teaching that. They are not shrinking violets. These are strong men, and they are well versed in battle. Okay, so back to the story. I've said my piece. So Menashe began to kick the walls of the palace with his foot. And do you know what happened? The blow was so mighty that Joseph's palace began to shake. Yehudah was amazed and thought, "Who is this strong man? He must be from Yaakov's family, for I know no one else who possesses such tremendous strength." Yaakov, again, Yaakov, even as old as he was still very strong. Okay, I had better not begin to fight. I will instead beg the ruler to release Benjamin. Yehudah began to use gentle words. "Please let our brother go. You forced us to bring him to Mitzrayim. You see, our father was against it because his beloved son Rachel had only 2 children and the other one died." Yehudah was afraid to say that Yosef was still alive, or else the ruler might say, "Bring him here also." Now Benjamin left. Our father is so attached to him. Now only Benjamin is left. Our father is so attached to him that he will die from sorrow if Benjamin will not return. I made a promise to my father that I would bring Benjamin back. I am stronger than Benjamin is and more efficient. Remember, we talked about Rashi commenting about, take me instead. I would make a much better slave because I'm much stronger than him, and I know how to serve. Okay, because he served his father. Okay, please keep me as a slave instead. How can I bear to see our father's grief if we come back without Benjamin? Have pity on our father. So, okay, so now we're getting to Yosef reveals himself. Okay, Yosef could not bear to hear Yehudah speak about his father's grief. Quickly, Yosef called all Egyptians, "Leave the room. Only the brothers may stay." When Yosef was alone with his brothers, he told them, "I know where your lost brother is. He is right here." The brothers stared at him. What was he speaking about? Where was Yosef? And Yosef, I am Yosef. I am your brother Yosef. Yosef called out. Quietly he added, "I am Yosef, whom you sold to the Egyptians." Yosef did not want the Egyptians who were outside to hear those words, or else the brothers would be put to shame. Is my father still alive? The brothers were too terrified and ashamed to speak to Yosef. They were afraid that Yosef would now punish them for having sold him. The shock of the sudden news was too much for them. They fainted, it must have been a tremendous shock for these guys to actually faint. Okay. But then again, I worked on an ambulance, and I've seen some pretty big guys, at the sight of blood, just go out like a light. Yeah. But, okay, so that aside, okay, so it was a tremendous shock. Okay, but Yosef began to calm them with these gentle words. Do not be afraid, he said smoothly. You need not feel bad that you sold me to the Egyptians. It was really Hashem's decree. Hashem wanted me to become a ruler over Egypt so that I should be able to supply you with food during the years of hunger. Yosef embraced his brothers. Slowly they overcame their shock that the Egyptian ruler was really their brother. Let us appreciate what a special tzaddik Yosef was. Even though he was a powerful ruler, he did not take revenge on his brothers for selling and humiliating him. On the contrary, he comforted them with gentle words. He had no hard feelings against any of them, even though he had suffered so many years after he was sold. When Pharaoh and his servants heard that Yosef's brothers had arrived, they were pleased. They were disturbed. And again, we talked about this last week when we were in the Torah study, because now you have the righteous man who's come in, and the Egyptians know this. The righteous man has come into the land, and blessing has really come into the land. And now the father of the righteous man, who is even more of a righteous man, is going to be coming into the land. How much more blessing is going to come into the land? Okay, and I think it actually talks about in the Sefer Agadah about that Yaakov comes into the land and the plague stops, or the famine stops. Okay, so when Pharaoh and his servants heard that Joseph's brother had arrived, they were pleased. They had been disturbed by the fact that a slave had become ruler over Egypt. Now they found out that Yosef came from a noble family, and this made them happy. Pharaoh ordered Yosef, load your brother's animals with grain and bring home for food. Then let them return to Egypt with their families and their father. I will give them the best piece of land to live in. Yosef told his brothers, travel home quickly and let father know that I am alive. Tell him also that I am an honored ruler in Egypt. Bring father here, and all of you return here with your families. I will feed you all during the famine. Okay, so Yaakov is told that Yosef is alive. Yosef loaded his brothers' donkeys with grain and gave all his brothers new garments as presents to replace the garments they had torn up upon hearing that Yosef's cup was in Benjamin's sack. Remember, they rent their garments. Okay. To Benjamin, he gave 5 garments and 300 pieces of silver. He also sent a gift for his father, donkeys loaded with delicious food. The donkeys being worth a lot of money. Okay. The brothers returned and sent a messenger to Yaakov with the news, Yosef is still alive. He is ruler in Egypt. Yaakov's heart almost stopped. It cannot be true, he thought. The news is too marvelous. But then Yaakov saw the wagons loaded with grain and presents which the brothers brought. Only a ruler had permission to send wagons out of Egypt. Yaakov thought. The brothers also told him, Yosef gave us a sign for you, so that you should believe the news. Okay, and we talked about this last week. He reminded you of the last chapter of the Torah you taught him. You spoke to him about the laws of the Eglah Arufah, the calf whose neck is broken. Now Yaakov really believed that Yosef was alive. Now, happy I am, he called out. I want to travel at once to Egypt to see him. Okay. The Midrash explains, who told Yaakov the news that Yosef was still alive. Do you know which messenger was the first to bring Yaakov the news that his son was still alive? You may have heard that it was Yaakov's granddaughter. Search the daughter of Asher. The brothers picked her because they needed a smart messenger for the news. Even though it would be marvelous for Yaakov to find out that his son Yosef was still alive, and the sudden shock of such unexpected news might do harm to Yaakov's health. You must remember that Yaakov is an old man. He's 130 years old. And Yosef has been missing for 22 years. Therefore, the brothers picked Zerach, who they knew to be a smart girl and who played the harp beautifully. Zerach began to play music for her grandfather and softly hummed the words, "My uncle Yosef is still alive. He is ruler over Mitzrayim." She repeated these words over and over until her grandfather began to smile. "What are you singing here? What you are singing here is very nice, Zerach," her grandfather said. "It sounds like good news. May you be blessed with a long life for cheering me up with such hopeful news." But nevertheless, Yaakov did not really believe his granddaughter until the brothers confirmed the news and he saw the wagons Yosef had sent. There is a different opinion, that it was Naphtali who first told Yaakov that Yosef was alive. Naphtali was a quick runner and always carried out errands for the brothers for his father. So the brothers sent him ahead to let Yaakov know the good news as quickly as possible. However, all the brothers previously got together and annulled the oath that they had sworn never to let anyone know that Yosef was still alive. Okay. So, Yaakov and his sons and their families traveled to Mitzrayim. Even though it was Yaakov's dearest wish to see Yosef again, he dared not travel to Mitzrayim before asking Hashem for permission. Remember, he talked about it. He was afraid to leave the land. Because every time he left the land, things didn't go so well for him, which, Rashi elucidated on. So, he was afraid. So, am I allowed to leave Eretz Israel? He questioned. The land of my fathers, where Hashem revealed himself to me. Also, perhaps I may not live among the Egyptians who do not fear, or may I live among the Egyptians who do not fear Hashem. Yaakov traveled to Beersheba to ask Hashem. He built a mizbeach and offered sacrifices. Hashem assured Yaakov, "Do not be afraid of traveling to Mitzrayim. I will accompany you and protect you. I will make sure that your children will not stay in Mitzrayim forever, but I will redeem them from there and bring them back to Israel." Now Yaakov's sons and their families took all their possessions and their cattle, and they began the journey toward Mitzrayim. Hashem sent 600,000 angels to accompany them to this strange land and protect them. And I wanted 600,000. Now, if you go and you look at the War of Independence, for the Eretz Israel, the War of Independence, after they were attacked, there is an episode in there where they were about to cut the land in half, the enemies. And they didn't move. They didn't do anything. And they were questioned by their commanders why they hadn't attacked these partisans these Palmach, and their few trucks and scattered forces and stuff like that. He says, you don't understand. This wasn't a few Palmachs. There was 600,000 of them marching down the Jerusalem road. 600,000. Coincidence? Think not. Okay. Yaakov told his son Yehudah, travel ahead of us and prepare for us homes in Mitzrayim where we can live. Also prepare there for us a Beit HaMidrash. We talked about this last week, where I can teach all of you Torah and where you will study. Okay, so that brings us up to the point we are at now. So we're going to set the little Midrash aside, and we are going to go to the Sefer Haggadah, and let's get ourselves caught up here. Okay. So some of this will be a repeat. Some of it will be new information. What can I tell you? Okay. So the brothers brought Benjamin and presented him to Yosef, and he lifted up his eyes and saw Benjamin, his brother, his mother's son, and rejoiced at the sight of him because he saw him the very likeness of his mother. Then Yosef asked, is your younger brother of whom you spoke unto me? They replied, yes. He invited them to dine with him. Now he wanted to have Benjamin seated next to him, but he did not know how to go about it. So he picked up his his goblet, and pretended to divine by tapping and sniffing it. Finally he said, Yehudah, who is king, shall sit at the head of the table. Reuven, who is firstborn, next to him, and so on with the others until Benjamin was left. Then he said, I have no mother, and Benjamin, whose mother died while giving birth to him, has no mother. I had a brother who was separated from me, and he had a brother who was separated from him. Therefore let him come and rest his head next to mine. Hence it is said that and remember, they reclined. They reclined when they eat. That's why he's talking about, rest his head next to mine, because they actually reclined to eat, like we're supposed to do during Pesach. And they sat before him, the firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest according to his youth. And portions were taken unto them. Of the portions brought to the meal, Joseph gave each of the brothers his portion, and, of course, gave Benjamin his. Then Joseph took his own portion and gave it to Benjamin. Asenat also took her portion and gave it to Benjamin. Asenat being Joseph's wife. Then Ephraim and Manasseh likewise took their portions and gave them to Benjamin, so that Benjamin now had 5 portions. Hence, Benjamin's portion was 5 times as much as any of theirs. Okay. The goblet was found in Benjamin's sack. The indignant brothers pummeled Benjamin's shoulders, saying, O thief, O son of she-thief, you have disgraced us. You are a true son of your mother. Even so did your mother disgrace our father. On account of the blows struck on Benjamin's shoulders, for the offense he did not commit, he won the privilege of having the presence dwell between his shoulders, that is, in his territory. For Benjamin is spoken of as the beloved of the Lord. And as Scripture goes on to say, God shieldeth him all the day, for he dwelled with him because of his humiliation at the pummeling between his shoulders. Okay, so Joseph makes himself known to his brothers. Then Yehudah came near unto him. Rabbi, Samuel bar Nachman said in the name of Rabbi Yonatan, while Yehuda and Yosef were arguing with each other, remember, he actually, became indignant with Yosef and was basically threatening him. Basically about it. He was threatening him. So while they were arguing with each other, the ministering angel said to one another, "Let us go down and watch a bull and a lion trying to gore each other." Ordinarily, a bull fears the lion, but here the bull and the lion are at it, trying to hoist each other. Rabbi Yochanan said, when Yosef seized Benjamin and his brothers, he who possessed the goblet was found, shall be my slave. Yehuda became enraged and roared in a voice so loud that it was heard a distance of 400 parsangs, so that even Hushim, the son of Dan, who was hard of hearing, heard it. He sprang up out of the land of Canaan and rushed to Yehuda's side, and with the two roaring together, the land of Egypt almost turned upside down. That must have been some argument. Rabbi Yehoshua, the Levi, said, the other brothers, when they saw Yehuda was enraged, were likewise filled with rage, and stamped their feet on the earth, making furrows in the ground under them. When Yosef saw the signs of Yehuda's rage, he was seized with trembling, and said to himself, woe is me, he may kill me. What were these signs? Blood oozed out of Yehuda's right eye. Some say that he wore 5 coats of mail over 5 sets of clothing. He had a single bristle on his chest, and whenever he became enraged, the bristle turned so hard that it pierced through all he wore. Furthermore, when he wished to stoke his rage, he would fill his belt bag with pea-sized pellets of brass, grab some of them, put them in his mouth, and grind them down with his teeth as his fury mounted. Okay. In saying, my Lord asked his servant, etc., Yehuda argued with Yosef, from the very beginning you haven't intended to frame us. From now, how many countries have people come to Mitzrayim to buy food? Did you ask any of them the kinds of questions you asked us, as though we had come to wed your daughter, or you to wed our sister? Nevertheless, we concealed nothing from you. Yosef retorted, Yehuda, why do you act as spokesman for your brothers, when I see in the goblet that you have brothers older than you? Yehuda replied, my brothers bear no responsibility for Benjamin, whereas my innards are twisted like a rope with anguish. Yosef, why? Yehuda, because I stood surety for him. Yosef, why did you not feel it necessary to stand surety for your other brother at the time you sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver, and inflicted pain upon your father by telling him that without a doubt Yosef had been torn to pieces by wild beasts of prey? That brother did no harm to you, while this one sinned, for he stole the goblet. So tell your father, the rope has followed the bucket into the well. When Yehuda heard this, he broke into sobs and cried in a loud voice, how shall I go up to my father if the lad will not be with me? Yosef said, "Come, let us discuss the matter calmly." At this point, it may be too late, State what you have in mind and set forth your plea in an orderly fashion. In other words, calm down, get your thoughts together, and then say what you have to say. At that, Yehudah said to Naphtali, in an aside, kind of a sidebar, go and see how many districts there are in Egypt. Naphtali leapt out, bounded back, and reported 12. Yehudah said to his brothers, I will smash 3 of them. Each of you will take 1, and we shall not leave a man alive among them. His brothers replied, Yehudah, Egypt is not Shechem. If you destroy Egypt, you destroy the whole world. At this, Yosef could not refrain himself, and he cried, cause every man to go out from me, thus putting himself in great danger. Get my police mark here. Putting himself in great danger. For if his brothers had decided to slay him, no creature in the world would have known who did it. Nevertheless, Yosef said to himself, it is better that I be slain than that I put my brothers to shame in front of the Egyptians. As soon as the Egyptians left Yehudah, again confronted Yosef, you swore by the life of wicked Pharaoh, and I swear by the life of my righteous father, if I draw my sword out of its sheath, I will fill Egypt with corpses. Yosef replied, if you pull the sword out of its sheath, I will wrap it around your neck. Yehudah, if I open my mouth, I will swallow you. Yosef, if you dare open your mouth, I will plug it with a rock. Yehudah then asked Yosef, what are we to tell our father? Yosef, I already told you. Tell him the rope has followed the bucket. Yehudah said, you pass a judgment upon us based on lies. Yehudah replied, lies to liars. No judgment is as full of lies as the sale of your brother. Yehudah, the fire that burned Shechem is rekindled within me. Yosef, it is rather the fire that you unjustly intended for Tamar, your daughter-in-law, and I will quench it. Oh, snap there. Okay, remember the whole incident with Tamar and at the corner? Yeah. In that instant, Yehudah's rage flamed out, and he kept putting pellets of iron into his mouth and spitting them out as dust, saying, now I will go out and dye all the districts of Egypt with blood. Yosef replied, you have always been dryers. For you are dyers. For you dyed the coat of your brother with blood and told your father that without a doubt Yosef was torn to pieces. Sensing that his brothers were at one in their resolve to destroy Egypt, Yosef said to himself, I had better make myself known to them to prevent Egypt's destruction. And so Yosef spoke up. Did you not say that the one's brother is dead? The fact is, I bought him. I will call him, and he will come to you. He proceeded to call, Yosef, son of Yaakov, come to me. Yosef, son of Yaakov, come to me, and speak to your brothers who sold you. The brothers turned their eyes to the 4 corners of the chamber. Yosef asked, why are you looking this way and that? Ani Yosef, I am Yosef, your brother. Instantly their souls flew out of them, and they could say nothing in reply. But the Holy One performed a miracle in their behalf, and their souls were restored to them. Then Yosef said, Behold, your eyes see, and so can the eyes of my brother Benjamin, that it is Yosef that speaketh unto you. For I speak the sacred tongue. Still they did not believe him. Why not? Because he left them beardless. Remember, he was a young man. And now he stood before them with a beard on his face. When they did not recognize him, they wanted to slay him. But an angel came down and flung them apart to the four corners of the chamber. In that instant, Yehuda let out a mighty roar so loud that the walls in Egypt collapsed. All pregnant women miscarried. Yosef fell off his seat. Pharaoh rolled off his throne. And all the strong men who had been standing in Yosef's presence had their faces twisted around backwards, and their teeth fell out. Must have been some yell. When Yosef perceived that his brothers felt such deep shame, he said to them, Come near to me, I pray you. And they came near. Each of them kissed Yosef and weeping over him. Okay, so that is where we are going to stop with the Sefer HaGadah. And we'll pick up the rest of that when we finish the Sefer Bereshit, so that we get it all cleaned up before we start on the next Sefer, the Sefer Shemot. Okay, so we are about halfway through our session. When we come back, we will continue with back into the Torah. So, Rabbi Moshe is here. And I was going to do this after the back, but as long as Rabbi Moshe is here, I'm going to, I want to show you this, okay? This is Rabbi Moshe's book. It's called The Path to Finishing the Talmud. Wonderful, wonderful book, okay? One of Zeta's favorites, okay? So, this and the other books, which we will be showing during our broadcast, we'll be showing each and every one of the books over the next few weeks. He is making these available at cost. And you can actually get it either in the hard copy, or you can get it for your Kindle. For the Kindle, it's only $1 per book. I mean, how cheap is that? And then the hard copy, I think they are $7 a piece. I think, and Rabbi Moshe can correct me on that if I'm wrong, or put it on there. So you can go to Amazon and just put in I Love Torah series into the search, and the books will come up. They are well worth it. This is something that should be in every Jewish library. So with that, we are going to take our break, and when we return, we will jump back into the Torah, so stay tuned.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
It's intermission time, folks, so hurry, hurry, hurry. Step right over to our refreshment center for the most extravagant array of refreshment goodies ever assembled under one roof. Enjoy breathtaking, mouth-watering goodies, everything from a snack to a delicious full meal. At our refreshment center, you'll find a large variety of goodies to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, or your sweet tooth. So hurry, hurry, hurry. Visit our refreshment center now. The show starts in 5 minutes. The show starts in 4 minutes. The show starts in 3 minutes. The show starts in 2 minutes. The show starts in 1 minute. now, on with the show.
And we are back. Okay. So, we still have everybody here. Crystal asked, what book should we start with? I would suggest go to Amazon, pull up the list of the books, and by the title, you will know which book to start with. Nobody will have to tell you. Okay. That goes for everybody. Just look at the titles. There'll be one there that will jump out at you, and that'll be the one to start with. Okay. So we left off last week. We finished chapter 46. We are now on chapter 47, verse 1. Then Yosef came and told Paro, and he said, my father and my brothers and their flocks and their cattle and everything they own have come from the land of Canaan, and they are now in the land of Goshen. And so that's verse 1. Okay. No commentary on verse 1, so we'll go into verse 2. And from part of his brothers he took 5 men and stood them before Paro. Okay, so Rashi goes on to say, and part of his brothers, from the least among them in terms of strength. So obviously, no, Yehuda is not going to be among them. Okay, just from what we read earlier. So from the least among them in terms of strength, who did not look mighty, for were Paro to view them as mighty, he would make them warriors. We talked about this before. They were the following: Reuven, Shimon, Levi. Shimon and Levi, this is kind of, Shimon and Levi, they went in and they slaughtered Shechem, so why, I mean, if these were the least, man, you can almost imagine what the others were like. Okay, so Shimon, Levi, Issachar, and Benjamin, whose names Moshe did not repeat when he blessed them. But the names of the mighty ones Moshe repeated when he blessed them. For example, and this to Yehuda, and he said, hearken, O Hashem, to Yehuda's voice. Of God, he said, blessed is he who broadens God. Of Naphtali, he said, Naphtali. Of Dan, he said, Dan. And similarly with regards to Zebulun, and similarly with regards to Asher. This, i.e. the above, is the version of Bereshit Rabbah, which is the Agidah of the land of Israel. But in our Talmud Bavli, the Babylonian Talmud, we have found that those whose names Moshe repeated were the weak ones. And it was they whom Yosef brought before Paro. And as far as Yehuda, whose name was repeated, his name was not repeated because of his weakness, for he was strong. Rather, there is another reason for the matter. It states in Bava Kama, is a Barisa in Sifri. We have learned in Parashat V'zot HaBracha, as in our Talmud. Okay. Yeah, we have learned in Parashat V'zot HaBracha in our Talmud. Okay. So, a lot of commentary for just a short verse. Further commentary on this says that as it relates to, let's see, all the way to 3. Okay, so that's number 8. So let's get down here. So, okay, so this is Bereshit Rabbah, which is the Nagadah of the land of Israel. Rashi might be of the opinion that Midrash Rabbah was redacted by Rabbi Yochanan, head of the Academy of Tiberias. Let's see. Related to tractate Bava Kama. Bava Kama, folio 92a. Accordingly to the Gemara, there the first mention of Yehuda marks a prayer by Moshe that the banishment that Yehuda took upon himself when he guaranteed the well-being of Benjamin be rescinded, the second mark of acceptance of Moshe's prayer. As it regards the Sifrei, to Deuteronomy 33, 18, and 22, the Beraita is a Tanaitic. I know the word, I just can't say it. Tanaitic material not included in the Mishnah. Sifri is a collection of Beraita dealing with the book of Numbers and the book of Deuteronomy. Okay, so we go on. There's no commentary 3 until we get to 6. So we'll go right from 3 through 6. Pharaoh said to his brothers, What is your occupation? They answered, Pharaoh, each of your servants is a shepherd, both we and our forefathers. Verse 4. And they said to Pharaoh, We have come to sojourn in the land, since there is no grazing for your servants' flocks, for the famine is severe in the land of Canaan. Now, if you please, allow your servants to dwell in the land of Goshen. Verse 5. And Pharaoh said to Yosef, saying, Your father and your brothers have come to you. Verse 6. The land of Mitzrayim is before you. In the best of the land, settle your father and your brothers. Let them settle in the land of Goshen. And if you know that there are capable men among them, appoint them as managers of the livestock over which is mine. Okay, verse, all of that. And Rashi's only got one comment on this, and it says the capable men, experts at their occupation to herd the sheep. Okay, further commentary on that one says, in other contexts, Chayil denotes army, strength, or wealth. But none of those meanings fit our verse, for they would not provide reasons why Yosef's brothers should be appointed managers over Pharaoh's livestock. Okay, so we'll go on to verse 7. Then Yosef brought Yaakov his father and stood him before Pharaoh, and Yaakov blessed Pharaoh. Rashi goes on to say, and Yaakov blessed. This usage of blessing is a greeting in the manner of those who appear before before kings from time to time. Saluder in Old French, Rashi being an old Frenchman. Okay. Further commentary on this one. We find Yaakov blessing Pharaoh twice during his audience with him, here and in verse 10. Rashi explains that the first blessing was a greeting, while the second at parting was a blessing in the conventional sense. Going on to the word salur, saluder, a salute or greet. Rashi uses the same Old French word in 33:11 above. The word has the origins in the Latin salutare, to greet, which in turn is associated with the Latin salus, health. Okay. So we're getting a little Old French lesson. We're getting a little Latin lesson here. So, okay. Ted has joined us. Good to see you, Ted. Okay. No commentary on verse 8, so we'll go from 8 to 9. Pharaoh said to Yaakov, "How many are the days of the years of your life?" Verse 9. Yaakov said to Pharaoh, "The days of the years of my sojourns have been 130 years. Few have been bad, and have been the days of the years of my life, and they have not reached the days of the years of the lives of my forefathers in the days of their sojourns." Okay, a lot going on there. Okay. Rashi says, the years of my sojourns. The days of my transience. All my days. I have been a transient in the land. He goes on to say, and they have not reached in terms of goodness. Okay, so the further commentary on this says, with regard to I have been a transient in the land, Pharaoh asked Yosef, "How many are the days of the years of your life?" But Yaakov's answer did not refer to the years of his life. It referred only to the years of his sojourns. Rashi explains that Yaakov was referring to all the years of his life. He referred to them as years of sojourns, as explained to Pharaoh why he looked older than his years. He's 130 years old. I mean, how much older could he actually look? Okay. As it relates to in terms of goodness, Yaakov would not have commented that he had not reached the age of his fathers, for he was still alive, and the prospect of outliving his ancestors still remained. Additionally, he mentioned that he did not reach the lifespan of his father in terms of goodness. That is, that he led a harder life than they, in order to explain his aged appearance. Okay, so now we move on to verse 10. Very short verse. And Yaakov blessed Pharaoh, and he left Pharaoh's presence. Okay. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 words. And Rashi's got a whole lot to say about 9 words. Okay, so Rashi elucidates, and Yaakov blessed, in the manner of all who depart from the presence of noblemen. They bless them and take permission to leave. And what blessing did he bless him? That the Nile should rise to his feet. For the land of Egypt is not sufficiently watered with rainwater. Rather, the Nile rises and irrigates it. And from the time of Yaakov's blessing and onward, Pharaoh would come to the Nile, and it would rise towards him and irrigate the land. This comment is found in Midrash Tehumah. Okay. The further commentary on this, Tehumah Naso 26, the passage in brackets appears in the Venice edition, but not in the earlier printed editions. So there you go. Okay. And the parts in brackets is see, how far back does it actually go? I think it's just the Midrash Techumah. Okay. Okay, so we move on to verse 11. So Yosef settled his father and his brothers and gave them a holding in the land of Mitzrayim, in the best of the land, in the land of Ramesses. How do you get that? Ramesses. And Pharaoh had commanded, as Pharaoh had commanded, I'm sorry. Okay, so Rashi goes on to say here that Ramesses is the land of Goshen. Okay, the further commentary on this says that here, the verse describes Ramesses as being in the best of the land. And previously, Pharaoh had described the land of Goshen as the best of the land. Okay, just in case you didn't get it before. Verse 12. Yosef sustained his father and his brothers and all of his father's household with food according to the children. Okay. Rashi goes on to say, according to the children, according to the need of all the members of their household. Okay. The further commentary says, according to the children does not mean that the only criterion Yosef took into account when he distributed food to his family was the number of children. Rather, the verse means that when Yosef distributed food to all the members of the family, he took into account the needs of all of them, even small children who waste food by making crumbs and the like. Okay? All you parents out there know very well exactly what he's talking about there. Okay. Ted, yes, the land of Goshen. Okay. Go on to verse 13 now. And there was no bread in all the land, for the famine was very severe. The land of Mitzrayim and the land of Canaan became weary because of hunger. Rashi goes on to say, and there was no bread in all the land. Scripture goes back to the original topic, to the beginning of the years of hunger. And the land of Canaan became weary. This has the same meaning as the next page. And it became weary. It is an expression of tiredness. As Targum Onkelos renders it, similar to it is like one who wearies of shooting flaming arrows. Okay. So the further commentary on this says, with regards to the beginning of the years of hunger, verse 18 below refers to events subsequent to the events of our verse, which took place in the second year. It stands to reason that the time of those events which had to do with the hunger is given in terms of the years of the hunger. Thus, our verse introduces a passage which goes back to the time preceding the arrival of Yaakov and his family in Mitzrayim after the second year. Okay. It goes on. The further commentary says, goes on, and it became weary. See Job 4:2. Despite the absence of the Aleph, it is from the root, Lamed Aleph Hey, to become weary. For the letter Hey can take the place of an Aleph. So now you know. Now we got a spelling lesson in there too. As it relates to, as Onkelos renders it, Targum Onkelos renders it. Here we go. Okay. Targum Onkelos renders it as Vishtal he, related to the Aramaic word Mishalhi, which is used to translate Ayef, exhausted. Okay. Okay. So we go on here to verse 14. It's here somewhere. No, it's here. Or did I jump there? Oh, yeah. I was back here. Okay. Verse 14. Yosef gathered all the money that was to be found in the land of Mitzrayim and in the land of Canaan for the purchases that they were purchasing. And Yosef brought the money into Pharaoh's palace. Okay. Rashi goes on to say that a face is to be understood, as Targum Onkelos renders it, is used up. The money was used up. Okay. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I jumped ahead. That was verse 14. Rashi says in verse 14, for the purchases that they were purchasing, they would give him the money. Okay, pretty straightforward there. Okay. 15, and when the money was exhausted from the land of Mitzrayim and the land of Canaan, and all the Egyptians came to Joseph, saying, Mitzrayim, yeah, give us bread. Why should we die in your presence? For the money is used up. And then again, a face is used to be understood as Onkelos renders it, is used up. Money is used up. Okay. No commentary on 16, which I find kind of odd, but we'll go from 16 into 17. And Yosef said, bring your livestock, and I will provide for you in return for your livestock if the money is used up. So verse 17, so they brought their livestock to Yosef, and Yosef gave them bread in return for the horses and for the flocks and the sheep and for the herds of cattle and for the donkeys, and he managed them with bread for all their livestock during the year. Okay, Rashi goes on to say, and he managed them. This has the same meaning as, and he conducted them, similar to it is Menachel, in there is none to lend her, and in by calm waters he will lead me, from the Tehillim. Further commentary, really nothing much on further commentary on this. No, just basically it's referencing to other things. Like I said, the by calm waters you will lead me. That's from Tehillah 23. So we will go on to 18. And when the year ended, they came to him in the second year and said to him, we will not keep secret from my lord that the money and the herds of animals have been exhausted to my lord. Now nothing is left. Nothing is left before my lord except for our bodies and our land. Oh, okay. I'm just catching up on the chat here. Sorry to blank out on you like that. Okay, so Rashi goes on to say, in the second year, second of the years of hunger. This means, but that the money and the herds have been exhausted, and everything has come into the possession of my Lord. This has the same meaning as except for our bodies. Okay, so basically, you've got everything. The only thing that's left to us is our land and our bodies. That's all there is. Okay. The further commentary on this one says, as it relates to the second of the years of hunger, not the second year after Yaakov's arrival. Okay, and that's about it. Okay. Related to, let's see what we got here. But that, Rashi notes that im in our verse is not used in its most common sense of if, but rather as that. Furthermore, he notes that the verb tam, the verb tam has been have been exhausted applies to both the money and the herds of cattle. The verse does not mean, but the money has been exhausted, and the herds and the cattle have gone to my Lord. In other words, they've all been exhausted. We have nothing. Okay. As it relates back to the herds have been exhausted and everything, okay, by using the hakol and everything, instead of money and herds, Rashi indicates that the verse is using the money and the herds and of cattle in the collective sense, and thus the singular verb tam is appropriate. Okay, and then as it relates to have come into the possession of my Lord, have been exhausted to my Lord could be taken to imply that Yosef's supply had been exhausted. Rashi explains that this is not the meaning of the verse. Rather, the owner's supply had been exhausted, for their property had come to Yosef. Okay, let's see if we got any more there. Nope. Okay, so we're on to verse 19 now. Let's keep an eye on the time here. Why should we die before your eyes, both we and our land? Acquire us and our land for bread, and we with our land will become serfs to Pharaoh, and provide seed so that we may live and not die, and the land will not become desolate. Okay, check and make sure that was the end of it. Okay, Rashi goes on to say, and provide seed. To seed the ground. Although Yosef had said, and there are yet 5 years in which there shall be neither plowing nor harvest, once Yaakov came in which there shall be neither plowing. Once Yaakov came to Egypt, blessing came at his feet, i.e. blessing followed. And they began to sow. And the hunger ended. That's what I was saying. Pharaoh knew that if he had gotten so much of a blessing because of Yosef, Yosef's father, who must be a greater tzaddik than him, even greater blessings are going to come into the land. And they did. So he welcomes Yaakov into the land, and immediately the famine stops. Okay, the hunger ended. Thus, we have learned in the Tosefta of Sotah. Okay. Lo Tisam. This means will not become desolate. Targum Onkelos renders it will not be uncultivated. It is related to an untilled field, one which has not been plowed. Okay, so further commentary on this as it relates to seed the ground, but not for eating. For they should have said, provide bread. Joseph's response to the people in verse 23 also indicates that they asked for seed in order to plant. Here is seed for you, sow the land. Okay, as it relates to Tosefta Sota, Yaakov arrived in Mitzrayim in the second year of the famine, when the Nile rose towards him and people understood that they could successfully plant crops. Remember, that's the second blessing that Yaakov gave to Pharaoh. The Nile rise up to meet you. Okay, as it relates to will not become desolate, in the future, the further commentary, in the future tense, the same form is used in the second person singular masculine. You will. The third person singular feminine, she will or it will. And the meaning must therefore be taken from the context. Rashi teaches that lo tisam does not mean you yourself shall not make desolate. Rather, it means the earth, which is grammatically feminine, will not become desolate. So there you go. The earth is feminine. You know what? We may run long tonight because we are almost at the end of the parasha. So let's go ahead and finish the parasha. We're on a roll. Okay, so we're on to verse 20. Thus Yosef acquired all of the land of Mitzrayim for Pharaoh, all for the Egyptians. Each of them sold his field because the famine had overwhelmed them, and the land became Pharaoh's. Okay, so he's got all the money, he's got all the cattle, and now he's got all the land. He's going to get even more. Okay, so Rashi goes on to say, for the land became Pharaoh's, that is, owned by him. That's all Rashi's got to say about that. And I guess that's really all you need to say about it. Okay, verse 21. As for the nation, he transferred it by cities from one end of Mitzrayim's border to the other end. Very interesting. Rashi's got a lot to say about this. Okay, so Rashi says, as for the nation he transferred, i.e. Joseph transferred the nation from city to city as a reminder that they no longer have any portion in the land. So he sold the residents of one city in its fellow city. Scripture does not have to write this, but to inform you of Joseph's praise, that he intended to remove disgrace from upon his brothers, so that the Egyptians should not call his brothers exiles, for after their resettlement in Mitzrayim, the Egyptians too were exiles. Okay, from one end of Egypt's border to etc. Thus did he do to all the cities which were in the kingdom of Mitzrayim, from one end of its border to the other end of its borders. Okay, so a lot of further commentary on here. Rashi cites Targum Onkelos to show that will not become desolate does not mean will not become desolate of inhabitants. This is the line which his comment above, that the Egyptians' request for seed was for sowing rather than for eating. Had they asked for seed for eating, we would have interrupted, and the land will not become desolate, as meaning desolate of inhabitants. Where Targum Onkelos speaks of desolation of inhabitants, he uses the word root, saying it Dalit Yud, as in Leviticus 26:22. Okay, as it relates to, let's go back up to 3. Okay, and the land became Pharaoh's, and that he owned it all. It had been Pharaoh's in the sense that he exercised political sovereignty over it even before this point. Okay, so he was a political sovereign over it. So, basically in general, this is his land. But now he's actually purchased it. He actually owns it. He actually holds title to it. Okay, as it relates to transferred. Oh, here it is. Yeah, okay. He transferred, i.e. Yosef, transferred. He does not refer to Pharaoh for who was mentioned in the preceding clause. Okay. The next one is related to from city to city. Targum Onkelos, the verse does not mean as for the nation he transferred it to cities, i.e. he moved the rural population to cities. 7. His brothers, this is related to, oh yeah, okay. Yeah, to one end of its, to the other end of its borders. The verse does not mean that the people were transferred from one end of the land to the other. It means that the transfer affected all the cities from one end of the land to the other. The people might have been moved to neighboring cities. In other words, just swapping cities around. It's not like he's picking them up and moving them all the way across the land. Okay, so verse 22. Only the land of the priest he did not acquire, for there was a stipend for the priests from Pharaoh, and they ate of their stipend that Pharaoh had given them. Therefore, they did not sell their land. Okay, Rashi goes on to say, the priest, the clergyman, any instance of the term Kohen in Scripture means one who serves a deity, except for those which denote prominence. Kemo Kohen Midian, such as minister of Midian, and Bohel On, minister of On. Okay, so the further commentary on this one goes, not a lot. The verse does not mean that, okay, Targum Onkelos, Targum Onkelos Komar refers specifically to non-Jewish clergymen. As a Kumarim. Above where Kohen appears in the construct with the name of a place, Rashi understands it to mean a dignitary rather than a clergyman. Presumably, he is of the opinion that On is identical to an area of Mitzrayim named Aven, mentioned in Ezekiel 30:17. Okay. Oh yeah, the rest of Rashi has to do with the stipend by the priest. The stipend is a fixed amount of bread per day. Okay. The further commentary regarding that one is Bidzas Folio 16a. Hook usually means law. We might thus have understand the verse saying, only the land of the priest he did not buy, since there was a law for the priest from Pharaoh. That is, Pharaoh enacted a law that priests may not sell their land. But the following phrase, they ate of their hook that Pharaoh had given them, makes sense only if hook is used in the sense of a stipend. Hook has this meaning in Exodus 29:28. Okay. Verse 23. Joseph said to the people, "Look, I have acquired you this day and your land for Pharaoh. Here is seed for you. Sow the land." Okay. Rashi goes to say that, this has the meaning as here. As hay is used in I too, see here, avenge your way upon your head, yada, 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 yada. Okay. As it's related to here, in the sense of the word here, when it is used to draw attention to something which is being presented. Here, take this. As it relates to, make sure we're not jumping ahead, avenge your way upon your head. Ezekiel, see there Rashi, the passage in brackets does not appear in the earlier printed editions. We're talking about the alphabets or whatever. Okay, so we're on to verse 24. 24 is here somewhere. There it is. And it will be at the ingathering that you will give a fifth to Pharaoh. The other 4 parts shall be for you as seed for your field and feeding yourselves and for those who are in your household and to feed your young ones. Okay. Rashi says, and seed for the field for every year. And those for those in your household, and for feeding the slaves and the slave women who are in your household, to feed your young ones, i.e. small children. Okay. So the further commentary says, as it regards of every year, the agreement between Yosef and the people was not for one time only. They received seed every year and paid a tribute every year. The next one is referring to and for feeding the slaves and the slave women. The verse mentions feeding, explicitly referring to yourselves, which precedes those in your household. In the verse, and which with reference to your young ones, which follows it. Rashi notes that although feeding is not mentioned explicitly with reference to those in your household, and for those in your household is linked to and for feeding for yourselves, and thus means and for feeding those in your household. By omitting the direct reference to feeding with regard to slaves and linking them with yourselves, the Torah alludes to the law that a master must give his slaves the same food as he himself eats. The Torah again mentions feeding explicitly when it comes to young children, because they eat food which is different from that of adults. Okay. And then the slave woman. Since the verse goes on to mention young children explicitly, it stands to reason that those in your household refers to slaves. Because it says yourselves, it says your children, and then the slaves in between. Okay. Getting to the end, folks. So 24. 25. And they said, you have saved our lives. May we find favor in your eyes, my Lord, and we will be servants to Pharaoh. Rashi says, may we find favor to do, i.e., that you should do this for us that you have said. The further commentary on this one, this part says, the verse does not mean, may we find favor in your eyes and allow us to become servants of Pharaoh. For may we find favor in your eyes indicates a request which is of benefit to the speaker. Becoming servants of Pharaoh is of benefit to Pharaoh, not to the Egyptians who are speaking. Rather, it refers to Joseph's promise to give them land and seed. Okay, and we will be servants to Pharaoh, Rashi says, to pay this tribute to him every year. The further commentary on this one says, and they were already servants of Pharaoh in the sense that a subject is a servant of his sovereign. Okay, 26. So Joseph imposed it as a statute until this day regarding the land of Mitzrayim. It was Pharaoh's for the fifth. Only the priest's land alone did not become Pharaoh's. Rashi says, as a statute, which shall not be repealed. The further commentary on that says, Rashi used the language of the Tehillah 148 and from Eov 14:5 that indicate that Hok is used here differently than it was in verse 22. Okay, last verse. Thus Israel settled in the land of Mitzrayim, in the land of Goshen, and they took holding in it, and they were fruitful and multiplied greatly. Rashi goes on to say here, now we're coming back again. Now we filled in that 2-year period, and now we're coming back to where Joseph's brothers and his father and their families come into the land. Thus Israel settled in the land of Mitzrayim. And where in the land of Mitzrayim? In the land of Goshen, which is part of the land of Mitzrayim. The further commentary on that says that the verse does not mean both in the land of Mitzrayim and in the land of Goshen, as if they were two different places. Rashi goes on to say, and they took holdings in it. They bought houses and estates and formed land holdings. They were fruitful and multiplied. This is stated with reference to the future. Okay, so the final additional commentary says, when they were fruitful and multiplied refers to a time after Yaakov's death, which goes to Shemot. It is mentioned here as a concluding remark at the end of the passage, which speaks of the settlement of the children of Israel in the land of Goshen. And our last commentary, additional commentary, the two comments are braces appear in the Alphabet's edition, the famous Alphabet's edition, but not in the other earlier printed editions. And that, my friends, concludes Parsha Vayikash. Next week we'll start the last Parsha of the Sefer Bereshit, Parsha Vayechi. So, we have concluded Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'hayol l'olam natan betochinu Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah. Okay. Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. We did pretty good. Okay. I want to thank everybody for being here with us this evening. Don't forget Friday at Kabbalat and Ma'ariv. Kabbalah and Ma'ariv service at 8 p.m. And then on Shabbat morning at 10 a.m. Shachrit and Musaf. Until then, my friends, we will say, Laila Tov.